Hello everyone. Welcome at my stream. Today I'm gonna talk about the Catalan opening, and I'm gonna explain you some basic ideas in that how to play. I'm gonna explain you how to play that opening. I hope you can later use it in your games. So, but let's start with one very important thing. Let me answer the question: what is the Catalan opening? This is first and the most important thing, right, to answer. So, Catalan opening that I'm just going to talk about, it's the opening. It's a part of the Queen's Gambit that happens if Black plays Queen's Gambit declined, right? White plays here Knight f6, and White plays g3. And this is, let's say, the starting position for the Catalan opening that I'm just gonna explain you today. Of course, the Catalan approach is possible against Slav defense, against any other things. A lot of people calls Catalan way of playing. You can play it similar way against everything, against King's Indian, Greenfeld, and so on. But in the today's lecture, I'm gonna focus on this specific position, how to play the Catalan against Queen's Gambit declined, right? Which is let's say original approach. Another thing is that the way I'm gonna show you the way I play the Catalan opening, right? So of course I'm aware that sometimes there are more popular lines, but I'm gonna show you couple ideas that I play, and actually those ideas that me became an international master. So I think they are not that bad. Anyway, let me explain you a couple of things. Okay, it's paste. Okay, so take a look. So this is like the starting position. And you need to know that in such a position, Black has got several different plans that Black can use. There are some plans. This is one position. I think there are like 8 or 9 different plans that Black can do. You need to know that from this position, one plan that Black can use is d takes c4. It is called the Open Catalan. Very popular, one of the most popular plans. Okay, another plan is if Black plays bishop b4. Bishop b4, you need to know that that move is very popular, but among titled players, right? So for example, if you watch some games against international masters or grandmasters, there is a big chance that you will meet this move. But what is pretty interesting thing, you will probably, you will very seldom meet such a move again in the club players games. So this is bishop b4. Okay. Another idea for Black is to play c5, and here we have got two different moves, two different plans for Black. One is called Tarrasch defense. Black is playing with the isolated pawn here. And another one is called Semi-Tarrasch, right? Half Tarrasch, and it looks this way. Okay, so this is another plan. There is also the plan that Black plays c6, and Black very quickly plays knight d7 and later bishop d6. The idea is to prepare the e5 move. This is also, you also need to know how to fight against something like that. Okay, and of course there is the main move is bishop e7, bishop g2, castling, and now this is like second critical position. Black can play c6, which in my opinion is, from my experience, this is the most common move, and we are going of course to discuss also that move. Black can play b6. Black can play d takes c4, which again it's similar to bishop b4, that it's very often played by strong players, but not that often among among club players. Okay, and there is also knight d7, another way of playing. Okay, but you know what? Because I think we have to start with the main line, maybe the most popular line. So let's discuss what happens if black plays c6. Why black is playing c6? The idea is to set up a very solid position. You can see this is this bird's beak structure. So black's position is quite solid. It looks a little bit like the Slav defense, as you can see. And black's plan probably is to develop pieces this way. So if you see something like this, you need to know that white has to use one of the most important ideas in the Catalan. White has to prepare the e4 move. Hello, literary knight. White has to prepare e4 move. So white plays queen c2. Why queen c2 is so important? Not only it prepares that move, but also it supports pawn at the c4. Because if white plays something like, let's say, knight c3 after this move, that might be a problem for white to take this pawn back. This is the reason why queen goes to c2. Okay, black develops the knight, and now white plays knight d2. Of course, knight c3 would block queen, right? So, but knight from d2 is not only protecting that pawn even more, but what is even more important is preparing the e4 move. And this is absolutely key idea of the Catalan opening. White has to play e4. Okay, let's say black plays b6, right? Black has to develop that bishop, and now white plays e4. And now you need to know that black has got, you see white has got a very strong center, and black has got a couple different options at that moment. The most popular option is d takes e4. This is definitely the most popular option, and right now, of course, white takes back with the knight, but let's discuss some sidelines first, maybe. So first sideline is bishop b7. Second sideline is bishop a6. If after this move, after bishop b7, white can play e5, right? If black doesn't take at e4, white can go e5, and if knight goes back, white takes here, pawn takes, and now white just develops, for example, rook e1. You can see that pawn structure should remind you a little bit French defense. Okay, black plays probably rook c8. Black wants to get some counterplay. White plays queen a4, for example. Okay, black plays here, and now white is moving knight to f1. Okay, you can see that position is around being unequal, but you can see that white has got space advantage. Take a look at black's pieces. You can see that those pieces are very smothered, right, in this position. Okay, so this is one thing that happens after bishop goes to b7. Sometimes black is also playing, pretty aggressive move, right? I'm just calling that move aggressive because you can see that bishop makes a pin here. It increases pressure over the c4 pawn. Looks pretty aggressive. And at this position, it's not a great idea to play e5. If black is playing aggressive this way, white's supposed to play b3, protecting that pawn. Rook goes to c8. Rook goes to d1. You see, black is making an x-ray. White is also making an x-ray, right? And after c5, white can take it. Pawn takes, and now white can just play bishop b2. And you can see that in that position, white has got more active pieces. Position is gonna become open, and the side with more active pieces has got the advantage. So white is slightly better at the moment, right? For example, pawn takes there, knight takes. Okay, black, let's imagine, plays b5, and white plays queen f5. White is very slightly better here. Okay, let's go back maybe to to the main line, because the move that you will meet the most often is d takes e4. Of course, you have to take it back. Knight takes, queen takes, and of course black plays bishop b7. And you can see that white has got a pretty strong center. White has got more space also. And what you need to remember about is that white has to complete their development. So white is playing something like rook d1. Rook is supporting that pawn. Maybe one day in the future it's gonna support this move. And it's also like watching towards that queen at the d8. Okay, black plays knight f6, and now white queen has to retreat. And now you need to know that there are two different approaches where to move that queen, because some players prefer to go to c2, and some players prefer to go to e2. My opinion is that queen e2 is a better move. There are two reasons why I think this is a better solution. Because first of all, even if black plays rook c8, there is no x-ray here towards the queen. But also, that queen also supports e5 square, because as we can say that the main idea of the Catalan is to play e4 for white. Second most important idea for white in the Catalan is to play knight e5. Not only in this line, but in a lot of lines you will see that white wants to play knight e5. So queen is supporting that square. Okay, black plays, for example, queen c7. Okay, white can play bishop f4, bishop d6. Okay, exchange, and now white plays knight e5. And white is attacking in the center. You have to remember that in general in the Catalan, white is attacking in the center, especially using those three files, C, D, and E files, right? For example, there are like several ways of attacking later. White can play d5, white can somehow prepare and play c5, and this is like a pretty interesting idea, because what's so special in this idea? Let's imagine black plays, you know, rook d8, for example, right? White goes there, and if somehow random move for black here, if white is able to play there, you know, queen retreats, there is knight c4, and there is very nice spot for the knight at the d6. So this is, of course, that also makes a lot of sense. Yeah. Anyway, so this is like the main line in the Catalan, the most common line in the Catalan. Okay. So now let's discuss another plan. Another plan that black can do is also d takes c4. So the Open Catalan. Let's now discuss this plan. And of course, I'm aware that the main move, the most popular move, is bishop g2. But personally, I don't like this move, because the problem is that very often white is down on the material. And that is a problem, that it's not so easy to take this pawn back. This is the reason why I always play queen a4. The idea is pretty obvious. I want to attack the king, and I want to attack the pawn. Yeah, I just wanna take it back as soon as I can. Okay. Now, of course, black can stop checkmate. Black can play, for example, c6, but actually it's gonna transpose into the line that we are going to discuss. So the most popular move is knight d7. Of course, right now, that pawn, I can take this pawn, but it's better for white to wait a little bit, right? Because black cannot play knight b6. As you can see, knight is pinned. So white develops bishop g2. Black usually goes a6 with the idea to play b5. And now take a look. If white takes, black goes b5, white moves queen, and black develops bishop b7 and c5. It's nothing wrong with this, but there is a better way for white to play. White can actually earn one tempo here by playing knight c3, because you can see that at that moment b5 doesn't work because knight takes b5, and you can see that here that thing is pinned. So actually black has to lose a move. Black has to play something like rook b8, and now queen captures here. Okay, b5. Okay, queen goes to d3. I usually recommend to move white's queen to d3 square. Okay, bishop goes to b7. Okay, castling. White wants to complete development. c5. And now pretty important thing, because this is a very common mistake, that a lot of people is moving that bishop forward. Always when in this line, in the Open Catalan, if black plays c5, take it there. Because I remember once I developed that bishop and black played c4, and actually those pawns are pretty annoying. This is the reason why it's better to take it, right? It's better to take it. Bishop takes. Of course, it is possible for knight to capture, but in this case, queen takes, rook takes, and now white plays something like bishop e3. Yeah, position is equal. You need to know that in the Open Catalan, it's if black knows it very well, it's very hard to get any advantage, right? Position is more or less equal, but you need to remember that equal position doesn't mean a draw, of course, right? So of course there are still some chances, but white hasn't got any problems. White is even slightly better developed. Okay, but queen takes c5. Excuse me, bishop takes c5. Okay, white plays bishop f4, attacking the rook. Rook goes to c8. Okay, and in this case, white is bringing even more pieces into the center. So rook goes to d1. And take a look at this position. Take a look into this position because okay, let's say black castles and white is starting the action in the center by playing knight e5. We will come back into this position, but I wanted to show you that you can also get exactly that position if you change the moves order. I mentioned that at the beginning, but take a look. If black starts with c6, right? Of course, in this case, white has to take at c4 because b5 is coming. So white takes. Black plays b5. White goes queen d3. Okay. Black plays bishop b7. Bishop g2. Okay. Knight goes to d7. Castling. Okay. Before black plays c5, black has to go there. White plays here. Okay. c5. After c5, as you remember, you always supposed to take it. Bishop takes it. Okay. Bishop develops to f4. Okay. Black castles, for example. Okay. White goes rook d1, and black goes, for example, rook c8. And this is exactly the position that we are discussing. It is just a different moves order. And now there are like a different ways of playing for white. My personal favorite is knight e5. You need to know that in the past I also tried to play knight g5, but knight e5 it's giving some good chances for white. Okay, exchange. Okay, knight takes e5. Bishop takes e5. Okay, bishop goes to e7, queen f3. And you can see that in that position, again, I'm not gonna convince you that white has got a huge advantage or something like this. Position is more or less equal, but white has got pretty strong bishop. White is controlling the d file. So again, equal position, but with some chances for white. There was even a player, you may know him, it's Ulf Andersen, and he was well known that he played that line and he made a pretty good results right here. He was known that there was a saying, right, that he would become a world champion easily if only you can start the chess game without queens, right? So and he played this line quite often, right? Because he was so good in the end games. But yeah, this is the way I usually play against the Open Catalan, and I have to say that it first of all, not that many people knows theory that well. Second thing, it's a pretty safe and good way of playing for white. Okay, so this is the Open Catalan. Okay, now let me tell you a couple words about bishop b4. I don't want to talk too much about this because it's not so common, but you just need to know why bishop b4, because the idea of bishop b4 for black is to go bishop e7. And you can see, okay, white plays bishop g2, castling, okay, c6, white plays queen c2. And you can see, if you remember the main line with the c6 that we discussed at the beginning, the difference is that knight cannot go to d2. And this is the biggest difference, right? So white has to find a different way how to play against that line. Okay, black's plan remains the same. Okay, and white has to play bishop f4. Okay, b6, and now take a look. Unfortunately, it's not a good idea for white to play knight d2. That would be too simple, right? If white can just play knight d2. The reason why this is not that good, because there is knight h5, and it's very hard after bishop e3 here, but bishop is blocking that pawn, so it's blocking e4 idea. So actually, this is not that good. This is the reason why at the moment white plays usually rook d1. Okay, bishop goes to b7 and white plays knight c3. Yeah, because white also wants to prepare this move. Okay, if black captures, white goes here with the knight. Of course, b5 is not possible because knight can take it here. You can see that that pawn at the c6 is pinned, right? So it's not gonna work. Okay, so yeah, so black plays, let's say, knight d5, takes, queen c7, e3. Okay, rook goes there, rook c1, and take a look. That's true that white's castle is, I mean, it's a little bit weak, but actually black hasn't got, you know, a lot of pieces that can attack white's king. This is first thing. Second thing, white has got a stronger center, and also white is going to attack here into the D and C files. All right, and you can see that white's pieces are slightly more active. Anyway, you don't need to be afraid that much of that bishop b4 move. It's not that common. Okay, let's go back. Now maybe let's discuss another plan, that is Tarrasch and Semi-Tarrasch. You need to know that I personally play Tarrasch myself as black, because it's pretty active approach, that black usually, Tarrasch starts here, that black usually has got an isolated pawn at the d5, but on the other hand, black has got some good counterplay with pieces. This is why, yeah, this is why Tarrasch is actually pretty strong, in my opinion. Okay, bishop g2, knight c6. Okay, white is always in the Catalan. It's very important to keep your king safe and castle early. Okay, knight goes to c3, because white's idea is going to be attack that d5 pawn. So knight is going there, probably bishop will go there, trying to remove the defender. Yeah, and that's the pawn. Okay, black castles, bishop goes to g5. Okay, and now you need to know that there are like a couple of moves at the moment. There is c takes d4, which is the main move. You need to know that black can also play c4, which is, let's say, the modern approach to the Tarrasch. There is also something like bishop e6. It's like the old line, right? Just two words about the old line. Okay, after this move, it's not such a great idea for black. It's very passive. White can just take it, and if bishop takes there, white can just even play rook c1. And now take a look. Black hasn't got, black's activity is not that huge, right? Because you can see that that knight is pinned, so bishop has to retreat, and white plays knight d4. White has got a very strong attack over that pawn, and it's not so easy to get a counterplay for black. So this is you don't need, white doesn't need to be afraid of that of that line. c4. c4 actually it's slightly better, but in this case white can just play knight e5. White plays knight e5. The idea is to attack that pawn. Okay, black plays bishop e6. Okay, and white usually takes, pawn takes, and white plays b3. Okay, this is usually the idea that white wants to make weak pawns here, right? You can see double pawns into the c file, and now white wants to, okay, that would be perfect if black captures, so white takes, and you can see that there is a backwards pawn on the half open c file, and on the a file there is also an isolated pawn. Okay, so so black doesn't want to play it. Black usually goes queen a5 here. Okay, white plays something like knight a4. Okay, rook fd8, making an x-ray towards that queen, and later c5. Maybe it's gonna be possible. White plays queen c2. Okay, black plays rook here. Okay, and white plays, for example, rook d1. And this is like a, okay, the battle takes place in the center. You need to know that, I mean, in the recent years, that c4 move became more popular. But if you remember to play knight e5, captured c6 and b3, I think white is still slightly, very slightly, but still better. Okay, and now let's discuss c takes d4. Okay, knight takes d4. Okay, h6. Okay, and now you need to know that at the first glance that may look that white can take it here, but actually this is not true, because bishop takes, and now that pawn is not hanging, because you can see there is a pressure over that knight at the d4. So actually it's not a good idea for white to capture that knight at f6. White usually goes bishop e3. You need to know that when you are fighting against the isolated pawn, there are two basic principles that you should follow. First thing is block it. So you can see there is a very strong knight at the d4, supported by a couple of pieces. And second thing is exchange minor pieces. So white will try to do that later. Okay, rook goes there. Rook c1, bishop goes to f8, and now pretty interesting move. Actually, white is taking that knight. So there is no longer isolated pawn, but white is transforming isolated pawn into hanging pawns. And especially c6 pawn is very weak right now. And now a good idea is bishop d4. You see, attacking the knight. Of course, c5 is not possible, because after c5 white can just take it, remove the defender, and that pawn is in trouble. Okay, so black usually goes bishop g4. Queen goes to a4. You can see that white puts some pressure over that pawn. Okay, bishop d7 takes, and now you can see that here we've got a pin, so knight takes d5. C takes, queen takes d7, and you can see that white is up a pawn. Of course, that pawn is hanging, but also d5 pawn is hanging. So you need to know that in that position, I think, again, white is slightly better, but black can get maybe a draw, right? It's very hard to get to win this position for black, right? And in my opinion, that bishop d4 move is the most annoying move for black, right? This is the reason why I play it myself when I fight against the Tarrasch. And remember that I have got some experience, actually a lot of experience by playing Tarrasch with black. Okay, let's go back. So we discussed Tarrasch. So let's go back, and now let's discuss also Semi-Tarrasch. And Semi-Tarrasch is the difference between Tarrasch defense and Semi-Tarrasch is that after c5 takes, knight takes there. So there is no isolated pawn at the beginning. White develops bishop g2. Okay, black plays, for example, knight c6. Okay, castling bishop e7, and now white plays knight c3. Now you need to know that the most popular move for black is to castle, right? Because in case in case black captures, c takes d4, white takes at the d5. And actually it's not a good idea for black to capture with the queen, because there is this move, this covered attack. And of course, if black captures here, this is a huge mistake, because bishop takes and white wins a queen. Right? This is the reason why usually instead of taking at the d4, black castles. Okay, so black castles, okay, white takes, knight takes there, and now at the moment e takes d5. I mean, it is also possible for black to capture with the queen, but you need to know that this is a pretty annoying thing, right? So white can go knight e5, takes, and white can take it there. B takes, and now even I think white can even take at c6, and white is doing pretty well at the moment. Okay. Okay, this is the reason why black takes with the pawn, and white immediately takes a chance by taking at c5. You can see that this kind of semi-Tarrasch changed back into the Tarrasch. I mean, because in this semi-Tarrasch, black usually doesn't own the isolated pawn, but you can see that in that position it's that pawn is there. Okay, bishop takes here, and now white plays b3. The idea for white is of course to play bishop b2 and later somehow knight d4. Because white of course wants to block that pawn. Okay, bishop f5, bishop b2, okay, bishop e4, rook c1. White is also bringing more pieces into the attack. Queen goes e2, e7, queen goes to d2. Okay, black plays, for example, bishop b6, and white is bringing another rook into the action. Okay, here, and now white plays here. Okay, and of course it's not gonna be a very short game, right? Probably it's gonna take a while, but if white will attack that pawn in a good way, white will probably win it, right? Black of course will try to counterplay. So remember, block the isolated pawn and try to exchange especially minor pieces here. Yeah, so this is about Semi-Tarrasch. Okay, now I think the next plan that we are going to discuss for black is if black plays c6. You can see that black's idea is to play knight d7, bishop d6, and pretty quickly e5. And this is the difference between, because of course white has to play queen c2, protecting that pawn, but also later supporting e4 move later. And the difference between the main line and this line is that black is not playing bishop e7, because after bishop e7 that line transposes into the main line. But now black plays bishop d6, and white has to react in a slightly different way. Castling, okay, knight goes to d2. So far everything is similar, and now black plays rook e8. Obviously black is preparing e5. I remember first time when I met that, like 15 years ago, I wanted to play it. I wanted to play e4, exactly like in the main line. But I don't recommend you to do that, because if you go e4, takes, and black plays e5, and actually white is in trouble. White's position is not very good. This is the reason why, if you see that black is trying to prepare the e5 move, I would recommend you to play it in a different way. I really recommend you to play b3 first. Of course, white's idea is to play bishop b2, and later you can play e4, right? But always start with the b3 move. Okay. Black of course usually plays e5, and now very important thing, you capture pawn at the d5. And now take a look. Black is almost forced to capture that with the pawn, because if knight takes here, of course it's possible to take it here, but there is a very strong move, knight c4, attacking those two pieces. Okay, bishop is not protected, so bishop has to retreat. And now in that case, white can even take it. Okay, takes, knight takes here, okay, bishop takes, rook takes, and now white plays bishop b2, for example. Okay, rook goes back to e8, and white plays, for example, rook d1. And take a look. White has got bishop pair. Two fianchetto bishops are pretty strong. Position is open, right? There is a big pressure over the d5 knight. White also threats to play e4. White's position is clearly better at the moment. This is the reason why black doesn't play. Black does not capture with the knight, but black usually captures with the pawn. And of course, very important move. White captures here, so now you can observe that there is an isolated pawn at the d5. Okay, bishop goes to b2, bishop g4. Okay, and now of course white wants to exchange some pieces. Knight goes to f3. Okay, rook goes to e7, and white plays knight d4. So again, you can see that there is an isolated pawn at the d5. So if you play Catalan, it's actually a pretty common thing that you will have to fight against the isolated pawn. So you'd better know how to play against it. Okay, good. So this is the plan with c6 and early preparation for the e5. Okay, so let's talk also about some plans after bishop e7, bishop g2, castling, and I think we have discussed all of the plans from the first critical position, and now from this position we discussed c6 only. Of course, if black plays something like c5, white always takes c takes d5, and this is actually the just the Tarrasch or Semi-Tarrasch line, right? But there are also like b6, there is also knight d7 move, and there is of course d takes c4. Yeah, let's start with d takes c4, which again, this is the line that is very popular among strong players. So white usually goes queen c2. Of course, the idea is to take it back. You don't need to be afraid that black will play b5 actually, because white has got a pretty tricky move a4. And a4, white is like undermining that pawn. By the way, this is also a very common idea, to undermine that pawn at the b5. Okay, and now after this move, there is now of course there is also a tactical motive of that thing, and now actually white can play knight here, trying to get that pawn. White can play even, you know, knight fd2, trying to take this pawn. Yeah, white has got a different. I think this is like I would play knight d2, right? And after bishop b7, white takes here, and that position is pretty good for white. So it's not a real problem. This is the reason why black plays a6 usually, and now white takes of course here b5, and white retreats. In this case, you need to know that this is a slightly different line than the Open Catalan, and white should have moved queen here, because you can see that on the c file there is a backwards pawn, and white's idea would be also to put some pressure over the c file here. Okay, black plays bishop b7, bishop d2. Okay, what's the idea of bishop d2? Because looks like a pretty weak move. The idea is to move bishop to a5 and try to attack that pawn at the c7. Okay, black usually goes like bishop e4, attacking queen. Queen goes to c1. White wants to attack that pawn. White wants to keep the pressure over that pawn, but also white is also blocking the c5 move. Okay, and now actually the main line is knight c6. Okay, you can see, don't forget about pawn at d4. Pawn at d4 is hanging, so white has to do something here. Bishop e3 is the solution, and black plays rook c8. Black plays rook c8 because later black wants to prepare the c5 move. Okay, so white plays rook d1. Rook d1 indirectly stops c5, because you can see that there is also an X-ray on the d file here. Okay, knight b4, knight goes to c3. White is developing, and after, for example, bishop a8, white plays a4. And in general, the idea for white is to attack into the c file. White is also trying to create some threats to those pawns, and sometimes white is also using the d file. Yeah, this is just an equal position, but yeah, you just need to remember that especially that idea with bishop d2. This is a pretty interesting idea. Okay, let's go back and let's discuss remaining lines. Another line is b6. Instead of d takes c4, that black plays b6, and what you need to know about b6, it's like if black wants to play it in the Tartakower defense way. You need to know that in one of my recent lectures I discussed how to play the Tartakower defense for black, and here of course it's like Tartakower way, right? With b6, with bishop goes there. This is the Tartakower way. Yeah, but right. So if you wanna, you can check it on my YouTube channel, right? But my lecture about the Tartakower defense. But if Tartakower is played against the Catalan, I usually recommend for white to capture. Black takes and queen goes to c2. White wants to, like a general plan for white is to bring as many pieces as it is possible towards the center. Okay, so bishop goes to b7. Okay, knight goes to c3. And now in that position, usually black goes knight a6. Because if black plays knight d7, white is basically doing the same, but there might be a problem with this pawn. Right? So this is the reason why knight a6 is more popular here. Okay, so knight a6. Okay, bishop goes to f4. Okay, black plays c5, rook d1. Okay, queen goes to c8, for example, because black wants to move out of that X-ray. Rook c1. Okay, rook d8, for example, and white plays knight e5. Remember, knight e5 is a very common idea for white to play in the Catalan. So this is yeah, you need to know that Tartakower defense against Catalan is white doesn't need to be afraid at all. Okay, and there is also another line if black plays knight d7 at the moment. This is like usually knight d7 is like a waiting move, because white plays queen c2, which you know also is a pretty universal move, and now black has got a couple different ways of playing. Very often black plays c6, but of course you need to know that it transposes into the main line. Black can also play b6, but you can see that it transposes into this Tartakower style line, and yeah, maybe the only separate line is to play c5. And this is kind of, you know, pretty weird Tarrasch defense, right? Pretty weird because in the Tarrasch defense usually you don't move your knight to the to d7. Okay, knight takes d5, you play knight c3. Okay, and now okay, black can actually, okay, maybe on the line that white needs to be maybe not afraid, but white needs to know what to do against this knight b4. You just move your queen away. Okay, knight goes to f6. White can just take at c5. And white is developing here. Okay, knight d5, takes, and you go queen c2. And again, black has got that isolated pawn at the d5. That's gonna be an aim for white's pieces. And white plays there. And again, white is attacking that isolated pawn. Yeah, so also this is not the plan that you need to be afraid of when you play Catalan with white. Yeah, okay. So I think I just described you all of the basic plans that that Black can do when they are facing against the Catalan. There are like 9 plans if I counted correctly. But what you need to remember absolutely, you know, to sum up couple key ideas when you play Catalan with white. Make a castle as soon as it is possible. This is first thing. A common place for the queen is c2, and queen from c2 is protecting that pawn, but also it helps to play e4. And e4, you need to remember that playing e4 is absolutely a key idea. So you want to play very often knight d2, you want to play later e4. Right? Very common place for the bishop, for the dark square bishop, okay, maybe I'll remove those arrows, is to play b3 and bishop b2. This is the most popular place for that bishop. Bishop is working pretty well, is doing pretty well on that diagonal. And there is also another, rooks you're usually bringing to one of those, I mean to 2 of those 3 files, right, C, D and E files, because white usually attacks here, right? And also, next thing you need to remember, very common idea, after of course some preparation, but a very common idea is to play knight e5, right? So those are like a couple of basic ideas for white. If I can describe Catalan, you know, in 1 minute, I would mention those ideas. Yeah, okay. So I really hope that you will use that Catalan ideas in practice. Later, I'm gonna upload also the whole lecture into my YouTube. You can find it there. And also, I just want to let you know that if you want to be informed about my lectures and you want to get some puzzles, and if you want to get also a free ebook about how to create the plan, I send you the link here, so you can download it there. And today, okay, thank you very much for watching. Hope you will play a lot of good games in the Catalan, and hope to see you next time. Thank you and bye.